That shouldn't be easy. And it shouldn't be just because you wake up with a crazy idea, let's go pass this law. Think about how that impacts.
And how can professionals leverage their public service experience to lead more effectively in corporate settings?
Well, I always thought one of my strengths, particularly when I ran for mayor, was that I had been in the private sector. And even though
that's true,
and I'm proud.
Yes,
people
that's right.
always, they look at my resume and go, "Oh, bull." But I told you, I was motivated by the efforts of my parents and Dr. King and others. But when I was born, my parents could not vote. Lisa, I know your husband and I grew up in Austin. I'm a little older. I attended.
Yes.
We're the test tube babies of the civil rights movement. So I knew who Thurgood Marshall was. And however young we were when, whether it was middle school, when they said, "Ron, what do you want to be?" I wanted to be a lawyer. I wanted to be this great civil rights crusader. Now, whether people think of lawyers or business people or not, but that was always top of mind for me. But maybe growing up in Austin, a capital city, watching my parents fight for the right to vote, or not just me, but our generation, the idea of not voting, of not being civically engaged, just wasn't in our DNA. So I've always straddled both worlds, but I've always believed I was a much better mayor because of all the time I spent in private service, in the private sector, particularly helping companies navigate public laws and processes. And I brought with me the knowledge that, look, what we do affects the way 1 million people live and work. That shouldn't be easy. And it shouldn't be just because you wake up with a crazy idea, let's go pass this law. Think about how that impacts. And then when I became more involved in corporate America, frankly, what I thought was a weakness. I was guilty of everything I preach today. The first board I got on a year after I was mayor. I worried everybody else in here is running a public company. Granted, I'm, sort of chairman of the board, non-executive chairman of a public company. But I realized over the years, my experience in governance, in transparency, in processes was as valuable as theirs. And I could bring with me the perspective of why it's important to have good practices. And now, when you look at ESG and post-Enron and others, all those experiences can be valuable to you. And what I have learned is no matter what environment you're in, going back to my yellow sheet of paper of what's good and bad, you take away from this, wow, what are the most effective ways to lead? What are the least effective? What makes a good board member? What doesn't make a good board member?
Makes sense.
It's life experiences, and that's valuable. Bring that with you.
Absolutely.
And utilize that. And then finally, I would say for a lot of us, and I don't know who your audience is, but I don't know that everyone values board service on not-for-profits as much as a lot of people think, well, I only want to be on a board if I'm being on a corporate 500 board. Well, when you're serving on a lot of these not-for-profits, you're serving with the CFO. Half of those boards are made up of people who have money, people who are philanthropists, but many of them have people who come from the corporate world. And what I have found, particularly now, 25 years being a board member, every time we have an opening, the first question we ask before we go out on the search is, all of you serve on other boards, what do you know? What do you think? Who do you know? And more often than not, particularly now, people will say, wow, there's this fantastic young woman that I've worked with on the Symphony board, the Food Bank board, and she's mid-level now at X company. But boy, if we could grab her before, everybody becomes aware.
Right, where
I'm just saying, all of those experiences can be important to you. But the most important lesson I had, if you accept the responsibility to go on a board again, go back to your why. It's about the work. You don't get to coast. You got to do the work, and particularly on the not-for-profit. Because particularly for women, people of color, a lot of times as we're moving up in a city like Dallas, there'll be people go, oh, Lisa, we know you've got a podcast and a job and kids, but we've got to have somebody, we just need your name. You won't have to come. The worst thing you can do is
Exactly. Absolutely. Yes.
because I promise
Not agree more.
when you do get the offer for that job, the first thing they're going to do is say, okay, where have they been involved? And they're going to call the zoo board, the Hockaday board, the symphony board, and say, hey, I saw you served with Ron Kirk. Tell me about it.
Tell it right. How do you contribute?
I have no idea. Never showed up. Never saw it. So if you're going to do it, do something that you really care about, and you're going to lend your passion and your energy and your expertise. And then don't try to, if you do it because you think I'm here, because if I do this, Lisa Gardner, Ron Kirk said, then I'll get that. They'll see you coming. Do it because you care about it. Do it because you have a passion and energy for that. And I promise you, it'll pay off for you in ways that you never anticipated.
Great advice.